Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today's class is Srimad Bhagawatam, Canto 3, the status quo, Chapter 1, questions by Vidura, verses 25 through 29. There's a lot, some have no purports or one-line purports, so it's all about Vidura inquiring about Krishna's family members. It's very sweet. But there's, in so doing, in inquiring about the family members, automatically we remember all the amazing things that those particular family members had been engaged in. It's very nice. Maharaj has been telling us all about Uddhava. And so it's always ecstatic to hear the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates. Like this morning in Namachintamani, it was saying that by associating with pure devotees, then it makes it possible for us to actually achieve love of Krishna. So, okay. Savasudevanucharam prasantam. Savasudevanucharam prasantam. Brihaspate praktanayam pratitam. Brihaspate praktanayam pratitam. Alingyagadadham pranayena bhadram. Swanam aprichad bhagavat prajanam. Savasudevanucharam prasantam. Brihaspateta praktanayam pratitam. Alingyagadam pranayena bhadram. Swanam prachad bhagavatat prajanam. Savasudevanucharam prashantam. Brihaspate praktanayam pratitam. Alingyagadad pranayena bhadram. Swanam aprichad bhagavatat prajanam. Savasudevanucharam prashantam. Brihaspata praktanayam pratitam. Alingyagadam pranayena bhadram. Swanam prichad bhagavatad prajanam. Others, please. Savasudevanucharam prashantam. Brihaspate praktanayam pratitam. Alingyagadam pranayena bhadram. Swanam aprichad bhagavatad prajanam. Anyone else? Sa Vasudevanucharam Prashantam Brihaspate Praktanayam Pratitam Alingagadam Pranayena Bhadram Swanam Aprichat Bhagavat Prajanam Savasudevanacharam Prashantam Brihaspeta Praktanayam Pratitam Alingyagaram Pranayena Bhadram Sanam Aprichad Bhagavat Prajanam Savasudevan Nucharan Prashantam Brihaspate Praktanayam Pratitam Alinyagadam Pranayena Bhadram Swanam Aprichad Bhagavatat Prajanam. Anyone else? Savasudevan Charam Prashantam Brihaspate Praktanayam Pratitam Alingyagaram Pranayena Bhadram Swanam Aprichad Bhagavatat Prajanam Sa He Vidura Vasudeva Lord Krishna. Oh, I see. Sa He Vidura and Vasudeva Lord Krishna. Anucharam constant companion. Prashantam very sober and gentle. Brihaspate of Brihaspati, the learned spiritual master of the demigods. Prak, formerly. Tanayam, son or disciple. Pratitam, acknowledged. Alingya, embracing. Gadam, very feelingly. Pranayena, in love. Bhadram, auspicious. Swanam, his own. Aprichat, asked. Bhagavat, of the personality of Godhead. Prajanam, family. Srimad Bhagawatam translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Then, due to his great love and feeling, Vidura embraced him, Uddhava, who was a constant companion of Lord Krishna and formerly a great student of Brihaspati's. Vidura then asked him for the news of the family of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Repeat after me. Then, due to his great love and feeling, Vidura embraced him, Uddhava, who was a constant companion of Lord Krishna and formerly a great student of Brihaspati's. Vidura then asked him for news of the family of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So we're going through the purport now, and then we're going to go through all the verses that follow this. And Srila Prabhupada wrote an article on this particular verse, and the article title was, "Why did Uddhava refuse to become the spiritual master of Vidura?" And Vidura was older than Uddhava for starts, like a father, and therefore, when the two met, Uddhava bowed before Vidura, and Vidura embraced him because Uddhava was younger, like a son. Vidura's brother Pandu was Lord Krishna's uncle, and Uddhava was a cousin to Lord Krishna. According to social custom, therefore, Vidura was to be respected by Uddhava on the level of his father. Uddhava was a great scholar in logic, and he was known to be a son or disciple of Brihaspati, the greatly learned priest and spiritual master of the demigod. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well-versed. So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya, another elderly person who was well-versed also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else, but Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. You see the picture here. There are different ways that we understand seniority, and one is by the wisdom of age. So that's, and there's other ways by post, by position, and by knowledge, by qualification, actual spiritual qualification. But in every case, we offer respectful obeisances, even to the post. I know if you, there's a sannyasi, we're supposed to offer obeisances to that sannyasi. And Prabhupada, there was one particular pastime where the devotees were on Prikrama with Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan, and Prabhupada came across, there were a group of sannyasis also doing Prikrama, and Prabhupada treated them with great respect. And he taught his disciples at that point, even though they were Mayavadi sannyasins, his disciples were thinking, oh, they're Mayavadis, and they were thinking in an offensive mode. But actually, Prabhupada taught us that we should offer all respect to others, as we're taught in the Shikshashtakam, said they're sannyasins, they perform great austerities, they should be respected. The Lord never tolerates the impertinence of the Maryada Vyatikrama. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interests of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of a pseudo-spiritual master is very risky to the progressive spiritual realization. There was a pastime, Uddhava has had many pastimes, and he actually made a mistake in a sense that he was given a message to give to the gopis by Krishna. And when he went to deliver that message to them, here he is, Uddhava looked a lot like Krishna. He had the bodily complexion of Krishna. So when they saw him, they were very excited because they knew he was Krishna's personal associate. And he started to glorify them in so many ways. But they actually weren't interested in hearing their glories at all. They were much more interested in hearing, what did Krishna have to say? What's in the message? So he read it to them. So I'll read what it says in Krishna book, page 47. Uddhava was to deliver a message to the gopis. Also, the gopis were such intimate personal friends of Krishna that while Krishna was writing the message for them, he was so moved that he could not write distinctly. Uddhava, as a student of Brihaspati, had very sharp intelligence. So instead of handing over the written message, he thought it wise to read it personally and explain it to them. Uddhava continued, "These are the words of the personality of Godhead, my dear gopis. My dear friends, please know that separation between ourselves is impossible at any time, at any place, or under any circumstances, because I am all-pervading." So the mistake that Uddhava made is he started to preach to them Brahmagyan, the knowledge of Brahman, but they were so much more advanced than understanding the Paramatma realization, because they had that personal, loving, intense relationship. They're the highest devotees of the Lord. So their position was far more elevated. They only wanted to hear about Krishna's pastimes, about what is he doing. They wanted to know all about Krishna, but to hear that he's all-pervading and he's in all of our hearts, and then to hear their own personal glories, they were very uninterested in such topics. So we're continuing on verse 26. We're going to be doing 26, 27. There are either one-line purports or no purports at all. So in text 26, it says, "Please tell me whether the original personalities of Godhead who incarnated themselves at the request of Brahma, who is born out of the lotus flower from the Lord, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, are doing well in the house of Surushena." So Surushena is the father of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Vishwanath Chakravarti says in the Srimad Bhagawatam 3:126, "Since the welfare of his devotees depends on the situation of the Lord, he asked about the situation of the Lord first." There was no purport, but Vishwanath Chakravarti had expanded on it. Svanabhya Padma means Brahma, who arises from the lotus, arising from the navel of the Lord. Kritakshana means making everyone joyful. Though Krishna and Balaram are eternally well, he asks such a question out of prema, out of his love. He wants to know, how are they doing? In verse 27, again, "Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudeva, is doing very well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he is always pleasing to his wives." If you think about it, whenever I start to feel a little teeny bit sorry for myself about, it's in any kind of poor, pitiful me mindset, I immediately think about Vasudeva and Devaki, who were jailed and lost all of their children. They're great devotees of Krishna, and they took on this very intense service, and they were willing to suffer any amount of difficulty in the service, loving service of Krishna. So why should I feel any pitiful sorrow on my account? This is like, am I willing, as Srimati Radharani, when asked, Krishna has a headache, we need to get the foot dust of a devotee. And she said, take it immediately. And Narada Muni says, but you're going to go to hell. And she said, I don't care. Take it immediately. Krishna has a headache. Are we prepared? Are we prepared to please Krishna at our own cost? This is the situation. So there are always great personalities to refer to so that we can understand that our sacrifice we're not victims. It's a choice to serve Krishna and to please Krishna or to not. And look at Queen Kunti. There's a whole book of her prayers because she would much rather be with Krishna in difficulty, because Krishna saves them again and again, than to be situated as kings and queens with servants and everything and have Krishna not there. So the choice is always Bhagavad Gita. Either you get Krishna's energy and power, or you get Krishna. So for the devotees, we're always looking to the humble position that we want Krishna. We don't, all his energy is for his pleasure, has nothing to do with us. Text 28. O Uddhava, please tell me, how is Pradyumna, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus, who was Cupid in a former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of the Brahmanas, whom she pleased. This is a picture of Kamadev, who he is known to have many flower arrows. And at one point, he used one of his flower arrows on Lord Shiva unnecessarily, and Lord Shiva burnt him to ashes. And that's why he then reincarnated immediately in the womb of Rukmini, because he was born as Pradyumna. He's one of the Chatravyuhas, one of the four expansions of Krishna. And it's said in these texts that they're full expansions of Krishna, in full, in Vishnu Tattva in full. It's this, for me, it's all very inconceivable. There's so much that I just have to leave it at faith, and I don't understand it 100% because the mind cannot wrap itself around everything that is Krishna and his expansions. But I take it at, yes, I just accept, even though, and I understand that later I'll understand more and more and more. The more love I feel and the more unlimitedly appreciative of Krishna and all of his pastimes, the more I'll understand perfectly. So text 29, oh my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of the Sattvatas, Vrishnis, Bhojas, and the Dasharhas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne, but Krishna again installed him. Ugrasena, actually the father of Kamsa and Devaki, so his grandfather, Krishna's grandfather. So the purports here, it says, Lord Krishna and Balaram are not two different personalities of Godhead. God is one without a second, but he expands himself in many forms without being separate from one another. They are all plenary expansions. The immediate expansion of Lord Krishna is Baladev, and Brahma, born from the lotus flower from Garbhodakshai Vishnu, is an expansion of Baladev. This indicates that Krishna and Baladev are not subjected to the regulations of the universe. On the contrary, the whole universe is under their subjugation and protection, I might add. We all want to be subjugated by Krishna and Balaram. They appeared at the request of Brahma to liberate the burden of the world, and they relieved the world by many superhuman activities so that everyone became happy and prosperous. Without the grace of the Lord, no one can become happy and prosperous, because the happiness of the family of the Lord's devotees depends on the happiness of the Lord. Vidura first of all inquired about the well-being of the Lord. Here we see Krishna and Balaram on the lap of their father. Purport. Lord Krishna's father, Vasudeva, had 16 wives, and one of them, named Puravi or Rohini, was the mother of Baladev, was the sister of Vidura. Vasudeva, therefore, was the husband of Vidura's sister, and thus they were brother-in-law. Vasudeva's sister Kunti was the wife of Pandu. You can see there's such close relations. Vidura's elder brother. In that sense also Vasudeva was brother-in-law to Vidura. Kunti was younger than Vasudeva, and it was the duty of the elder brother to treat younger sisters as daughters. Whenever anything was needed by Kunti, it was munificently delivered by Vasudeva due to his great love for his younger sister. Vasudeva never dissatisfied his wives, and at the same time he supplied the objects desired by his sister. He had special attention for Kunti because she had become a widow at an early age. While inquiring about Vasudeva's welfare, Vidura remembered all about him and the family relationship. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Smara, Cupid, or Kamadev, is one of the eternal associates of Lord Krishna. Jiva Goswami has explained this elaborately in his treatise, Krishna Sandara. In the Srimad Bhagawatam, Canto 10, Chapter 55, Text 1, translation, Sukadeva Goswami said Kamadeva, Cupid, an expansion of Vasudeva, had previously been burned to ashes by Rudra's anger. Now, to obtain a new body, he merged back into the body of Lord Vasudeva. In that purport, Prabhupada said in his Krishna Sandarbha, Anucheda 87, Srila Jiva Goswami cites the following verse of the Gopala Tapani Upanishad 2:40 to prove that Pradyumna, who is the son of Krishna, and Rukmini is the same Pradyumna, who is a member of Lord Krishna's eternal fourfold plenary expansion, the Chatra Vyuha. They are also Vishnu Tattva. At Dwarka, Lord Vasudeva is engaged in his transcendental pastimes along with his plenary expansions, namely Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and therefore each and every one of them can be addressed as the personality of Godhead. Achinta Beta Beta Tattva is explained. This is really our bottom line philosophy. Achinta, how can we all of this be simultaneously one with and different from Krishna? This is our core philosophy. And these verses are really speaking to that when we're talking about the Chatra Vyuha. It is explained in coming soon, and we're going to look at it in more detail. It says the Adi Chatra Vyuha, the original expansions from Baladev, are Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. All of them are Vishnu Tattvas, or non-different from the personalities of Godhead. In the incarnation of Sri Ram, all these different expansions appear for particular pastimes. Lord Ram is the original Vasudeva, and his brothers are Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So you see, they continue, the Leelas are going on. These same original personalities are taking on different pastimes, wearing different forms of the Lord, and they're all complete, not like ourselves. When we shed this body, that body goes to the dust or the fire or wherever it goes, but theirs are transcendental. They're very different from ours. And we think that everything is according to our own experience. And as we were looking in another class, it's the frog philosophy. My well, I only know what I know. It can't be more than what I know. But our minds must be blown by this Krishna consciousness. We have to expand ourselves. This Chit Shakti is ever expanding. It is not boring. It's like, oh my, I can't understand, but I will, by love. So Lord Ram is the original Vasudeva. All this is nicely explained in the Markandeya Purana. In the incarnation of Lord Krishna, Aniruddha appeared as the grandson of the Lord. Lord Krishna in Dwarka is the Vasudeva expansion of the original group. The original Lord Krishna never leaves Goloka Vrindavan. All the plenary expansions are one and the same Vishnu Tattva, and there is no difference in their potency. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11:21, this is where Uddhava, the Uddhava Gita is also in the 11th canto, and there's in the 11th canto is 24 gurus, where we learn to see our teachers in everything. And in this, because I was trying to find everything that Uddhava was engaged in, and of course you can't find everything because there's so much more. But actually, Krishna personally taught Uddhava. He personally taught him deity worship because he knew, I'm actually going to be disappearing soon. I won't be here, and I need to leave something. And what I really started to understand, because living in Vrindavan, everywhere you go, there are these deities that have been excavated from this place, or like I was just talking about the other day, the Radha Govinda temple. While they were digging the foundation, actually three, there was a Vrinda Devi deity and a Balaram deity that's 6 foot tall, Balaram deity, and a Hanuman deity. That when I'm not sure if it was Aurangzeb, when they attacked the Radha Govinda temple, this Hanuman deity started to roar like Nrsingadev, and he got the name after that, Nrsinga Hanuman, and he's in a temple close by, Radha Govinda temple. That Balaram deity is in Anaj Mandi. He's there, and it's with his wife, and they worship him there. He's huge. He's a big deity. But when they excavate these places and these deities come out, they are deities that were installed by Lord Krishna's great grandson, King Vajranabha. The descendants of Krishna actually took up deity worship of Krishna. They established deity worship, just as Krishna is teaching Uddhava. And it's even though it's here, he says it's in brief. He describes deity. Krishna's teaching him personally, but he says, I'm teaching it to you in brief. But if you read the 27th chapter, there's an awful lot of information there. And so text 1, Sri Uddhava said, my dear Lord, O master of the devotees, please explain to me the prescribed method of worshiping you in your deity form. What are the qualifications of those devotees who worship the deity? On what basis is such worship established? And what is the specific method of worship? Text 2, all the great sages repeatedly declare that such worship bring the greatest benefit possible in human life. This is the opinion of Narada Muni, the great Vyasadeva, and my own spiritual master Brihaspati. Text 6, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Uddhava, there is no end to the innumerable Vedic prescriptions for executing deity worship. So I shall explain this topic to you briefly, one step at a time. I'm not giving you the whole chapter, but I'm skipping through it. Text 10, one should first purify his body by cleansing his teeth, bathing. Then one should perform a second cleansing by smearing the body with earth and chanting both Vedic and Tantric mantras. Text 11, fixing the mind on me, one should worship me by his various prescribed duties, such as chanting the Gayatri mantra at the 3 junctures of the day. Such performances are enjoined by the Vedas and purify the worshipper of reactions to fruitive activities. Text 18, even very opulent presentations do not satisfy me if they are offered by non-devotees. But I am pleased by any insignificant offering made by my loving devotees, and I'm certainly most pleased when nice presentations of fragrant oil, incense, flowers, and palatable foods are offered with love. That's the big ingredient, the love. Text 24, the devotee conceives of the supersoul whose presence surcharges the devotee's body in the form corresponding to his realization. Thus the devotee worships the Lord to his full capacity and becomes fully absorbed in him by touching the various limbs of the deity and chanting appropriate mantras. The devotee should invite the supersoul to join the deity's form, and then the devotee should worship me. The intelligent devotee should meditate upon that form. This is verses 38 through 41. That form of the Lord whose color is like molten gold, whose 4 arms are resplendent with the conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower, and who is always peaceful and dressed in a garment colored like the filaments within a lotus flower. His helmet, bracelets, belt, and fine arm ornaments shine brilliantly. The symbol of Srivatsa is on his chest, along with the glowing Kaustubha jewel and a garland of forest flowers. The devotee should then worship the Lord by taking pieces of firewood soaked in the sacrificial ghee and throwing them into the fire. One should perform the ritual of Agada, presenting into the fire the various items of oblation drenched in ghee. He should then offer to 16 demigods, beginning with Yamaraj, the oblation called Shishti Krit, reciting the basic mantras of each deity and the 16-line Purusha Sukta hymn, pouring one oblation after each line of the Purusha Sukta. He should utter the particular mantra naming each deity. Text 48, and you can go back. We just recently studied the Purusha Sukta chapter. Text 48, whenever one develops faith in me, in my form as the deity or in any other bona fide manifestations, one should worship me in that form. I certainly exist both within all created beings and also separately in my original form, since I am the supreme soul of all. Text 50, the devotee should more fully establish my deity by solidly constructing a temple along with beautiful gardens. I liked this part, the beautiful gardens. These gardens should be set aside to Jai Panchatattva Ki Jai. These gardens should be set aside to provide flowers for the regular daily worship, special deity processions, and holiday observances. And here there's the gopis are making flower garlands for the Lord. One of the names of Krishna is Vanamali. He tends the forest. There's one particular pastime where he was playing with the gopis disguised as a gardener. He disguises himself as a taxman, as a gardener, as a boatman, in various ways to interact with the gopis. Then at the very end, the last two verses of the chapter talk about what not to do. There's so much in this chapter of what to do, but then again, there's the do nots. And there's two, and that is anyone who steals the property of the demigods or the brahmanas, whether originally given to them by himself or someone else, must live as a worm and stool for 100 million years. Yikes. So we don't want to do that. We know we don't want to do that. We want to worship Krishna in love, and we don't want to become a worm and stool. So that just in case, we get foolish, we need to be careful about these kinds of things. There's two verses, and everything else was all favorable, how to perform devotional service favorably. So we thank the Lord for breaking open the storehouse of love of God and gifting us with the chanting of the Maha Mantra, the Yuga Dharma for this age. It's so easy. In the previous age, deity worship was given, and that was the Yuga Dharma of that age. Fortunately, at this time, chanting of the holy name has been given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so it's not so difficult. Still, Prabhupada has established these temples so that we could advance spiritually. It creates, wherever there are the pastimes of the Lord spoken and the pastimes of the Lord in the way of the artics, wherever that is happening, it becomes a dham, surcharged with the spiritual atmosphere. It is a spiritual location meant for a lot of spiritual advancement, and it's meant for our purification. Prabhupada was a dham maker. He established these places all over the earth planet. He took Krishna prema and he distributed it widely, as predicted by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that in every town and village, and now with the internet, going into every town and village, these things are going on. It's coming to pass for certain. So what is that Yuga Dharma? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So wonderfully easy for us to chant the holy names of the Lord, develop our love of God. And we also have a beautiful process of honoring Krishna Prasad. So that's what we will be doing soon, honoring Krishna Prasad. Everyone is welcome and invited to join us for breakfast. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Sarira Vijajal Jodendriya Tahika